In general,
Competitive anything.
therein lies one of the problems that I have with most card games and RPGs. I don't do a lot of the metagame stuff unless it's like organically introduced throughout playing.
So for me, metagaming, the only reason I'm willing to do it is because like I would never do it in an RPG, because I feel like that at that point you're just being dickish to the DM. Like unless your DM is an asshole, like please don't metagame.
You're talking about table RPGs. I'm talking about video games.
Oh well, also
like for instance, you're playing a video game and you're having a good time. Suddenly they want to stop you to give you a tutorial about some sort of extra thing in the menus that you could do to give you the edge, and it's like,
so Final Fantasy VIII.
Yes.
Oh, hey, look at that. Cutting in here with the references to a game that you actually enjoyed.
I do enjoy that game, but I will be the first person to say that game is front-loaded with tutorials when it does not need to be.
No, not at all. But no, so the only reason I would say I ever metagame is because I'm playing something competitive. So like fighting games and like anything competitive, I think metagaming, you're not being an asshole. But I can totally see how like metagaming and anything else could be seen as like the scumbaggery move.
Okay, so in a game like Magic, metagaming is fine.
Yeah.
In a game like D&D, dude, you got to read the room on that shit. What sort of party are you playing with? Because
if you're playing with a party, especially I say this as a guy who's a DM, if you're playing with a party that is more based around the storytelling aspect and all that shit, your DM will let you get away with a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
I have let people get away with so many things because it's like cooler to the story that something happened.
My DM, Josh, if you're listening, hi. He always focuses more on story because he learned really quickly that we cared more about the role playing, interacting with the NPCs.
And that's a lot of fun to me too.
Yeah, than we did the actual. Don't get me wrong. We enjoyed the actual RPG elements and all that. Does. But like we flourished when we were in town.
And that's also the kind of thing where, once again, not only do you have to read the room, but you have to get a DM that is more moving towards a writing aspect rather than a like game design sort of aspect, because you can get tons of people who are very, very good like dungeon designers and shit like that. And I will be first to say I have no idea how to make a good dungeon. Like I just don't get it. Like I can't design encounters very well. I can't do this and that, but I can write. I think my favorite session was, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks ago, where it was literally my party in a conversation for 3 hours. And it was the most fascinating it has ever been, and my party loved the crap out of it. Because it was them talking with a bunch of corporate overlords about how these corporate overlords basically designed a plague, but not out of malice, like not to actively try and murder people. It was more there is a literal army waiting beyond the 4th dimension to murder all of us. And if we don't start purging the weak, who can become mind-controlled by this other psychopath that we heard existed, we're screwed. So we're purging the weak because you know what? We're gonna die otherwise. And it was fascinating to watch everybody's brains move. And we're like, oh my god, are we justifying genocide? No!
Fair enough.
Anyway.
3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm John.
I'm Andrew.
And this is Agree to Disagree for reals this time.
Yeah, we're going actually back to the original format rather than us just rambling about a thing that we had just watched.
Yeah.
Then again, isn't that the majority of the show, though? Rambling about a thing we just watched?
I mean, yeah, but I'm a rambling man. I like to ramble.
Yeah. I feel like there should be twangy music in the background as you say that.
I'll tell you what, John, right now, insert some of Lemon Jelly's Rambling Man right here.
Was that? I thought that was a oh god, famous duo. Words.
Oh.
Allman Brothers.
I couldn't say, but I do know that there is a song called Ramblin' Man by Lemon Jelly that was introduced to me by one of my best friends in the whole world, and also a person who's been on this podcast a couple times, Brant Andrist. That I still regularly listen to because I think it's a fantastic song, and it's a song about a guy who it's a song that's created that's just like a guy who's on an adventure through his entire life.
Yeah.
And it's just someone talking to him about all the places he's been. The entire song is just like this boom, chicka, bah, chicka, And he's like, Tibet. Rangoon.
just like a very
just listing countries.
Just like a very what's the word I'm looking for? Most interesting man in the world. Just like telling you about his travels.
But anyway, we're burying the lead here.
Yeah.
We are talking about The Incredible Hulk, the 2008 movie with Edward Norton.
I was gonna say which one,
not Hulk by Ang Lee,
and not the 1960s television show.
Although we could talk about that, but not.
Can we? Because that sounds fun.
Yeah, but
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know if it'd be an agree to disagree, but it'd be a lot of fun to talk about. And in fact, I feel like this episode, it was the original point of it was that it was going to be timely because Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out.
I mean, I guess it's timely now because Spider-Man Homecoming's out.
Spider-Man Homecoming's out, and also SDCC just happened,
and Thor Ragnarok footage came out, and it looks amazing.
Now, that being said, I am officially not watching any more footage. After that first trailer came out, I was like, I'm sold on this movie. I don't need to see anything else.
Please don't show me anything more. It's just going to ruin shit.
Before I came here, I got into an argument with one of the bartenders at Hi-Fi Brewery.
The place that used to not sponsor us, but we used to like work out of, I guess.
By the way, they miss us. But
do they?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But the bartender there was asking me if I had seen the new San Diego Comic-Con trailer for Thor Ragnarok, and I told him flat out, I don't want to watch it because I'm already sold on the movie.
Yeah.
And the less I know about the movie, the better.
So that was how I was with The Force Awakens when they first showed the first trailer. I actually get that attitude of just being like, I am so down on this. Anything else is going to ruin my experience. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I don't need to see anymore. I'm okay.
I already know that the movie's going to deal with serious overtones.
Yep.
Or serious undertones about
with silly, over the top, overly 80s bullshit on top.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
But so you got Asgard is destroyed. Odin is probably dead.
Mm-hmm. Well, Odin's dead. We know that possibly from the.
We don't know for sure that he's dead.
Yeah,
we just know that Loki is impersonating Odin,
which is a big deal.
And Thor gets kidnapped and he gets trapped. And there's all this serious stuff going on, but then you still got that wonderful levity that you get in like sort of like the Avengers films kind of way.
Some immigrant song going on.
Oh my god! Don't even get me started. That Led Zeppelin, you play that on top of it with the
That was actually a really suitable impression there. Like that was like I would applaud if it wouldn't fuck up our audio.
And you get that going on with Thor.
Yeah,
and
it could not be more fitting.
And him versus Hulk in an arena. Hosted by Jeff Goldblum. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. So, okay, I'll see you in November.
I'm not going to reveal too much because I don't want to do that to you. But I will say, I'm gonna keep things vague. I'm a vague book this. So, it looks like they're doing World War Hulk stuff, which means take that as you will, but World War Hulk stuff seems to be involved. They're doing that. They're also going to be using, they're also going to be using Surtur, who is guaranteed, which we kind of all knew, guessing by like, the fire in the first trailer. So Surtur's showing up with Hela, Hel, which we knew to be the, I still can't believe that's Cate Blanchett. Like that's still, I swear to God, you just change her hair color and I forget that she's a human being. Well, I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, that's like, what's her face playing Rita Repulsa in the new Power Rangers movie.
Right? You're like, I know you from somewhere, but God damn it, I don't know who you are.
There was an interview with her where her kids didn't even recognize her in that film.
Yeah, it's not even that much. It's like a slightly different costume and some horns, and you're like, how the fuck do I just not know you anymore? It's incredible. It's like oh damn it. Yeah, it's like when they got Anthony Hopkins to do Odin, and it really took me a moment to be like, oh shit, that's him. Oh my god.
As a side note, that's the first time I've ever seen Anthony Hopkins play a character where I didn't immediately think of Hannibal.
Yeah. I didn't think he was gonna eat people. Yeah. Gold star.
Like, what, man, there is a person that has become typecast.
What is crazy, overly intelligent?
He just has this way of talking where he's got a low, soft thing that's totally ASMR.
It's slightly terrifying.
Except it's slightly terrifying only because he played the world's greatest serial killer.
Yeah, I mean, that would do it. I still say Buffalo Bill is the scarier part of that movie.
Well, yeah, he is, but...
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, Hannibal is scary, and there is something, like, very scary to being like, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing. That makes it way more terrifying. Buffalo Bill is just like, no, you have no concept of what reality is anymore, and I don't know which is scarier.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the actual topic that started.
Let's finish talking about Thor Ragnarok for a second.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Because although I did not watch the trailer, I did read excerpts from an interview with Mark Ruffalo.
Oh, cool.
Talking about how he approached the Hulk in the upcoming Ragnarok film. And what he was talking about in his it was a convention hall interview kind of thing.
Right.
And he was saying that Banner has been the Hulk now for 2 years straight. And
where the hell did the time skip come from?
So he has been the Hulk for 2 years straight because he got captured and he's just been hulked out for 2 years nonstop.
Wait a minute.
Because he likes being a champion.
Shit. He's been gone since Ultron, right?
Yeah.
Has it been 2 years in the timeline?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's been at least 2 years in the timeline.
That's a big deal.
So Banner has been the Hulk for 2 years, so he approaches it. So from what I understand, the Hulk is going to talk a lot more in this film.
The Hulk actually, I will tell you that's why I brought up the World War Hulk thing. The Hulk talks for the first time in that trailer, and that is mind-blowing.
But apparently he approaches the Hulk sort of like, he approaches it like a 2-year-old. So it's sort of like, he doesn't have a... He is about as mentally evolved as you would expect a 2-year-old to be.
Sure.
But he's also the Hulk.
Right, which is terrifying on so many different levels.
So much id. Yeah, so much id.
But it looks, I will say this, the trailer looks sweet. I'm not gonna bash the Justice League trailer, but it's really funny to me that they put that out on the same day and we're just like, hey DC, hold my beer.
Well, I mean, I like the approach that a lot of people have been criticizing the DC cinematic universe, just being sort of like, it was like a bunch of people got together and said, we want that. We want what Marvel's got. I want that.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of, I think, one of my favorite quotes in regards to this is still going to be the there was a zero punctuation quote in regards to this 2 years ago, or maybe even longer than that. It might have been 4, back when Man of Steel was first announced to be coming out, and they had announced that they were going to do a DC cinematic universe. And there's a zero punctuation quote where he's like, PlayStation All-Stars reminds me a lot of what DC is attempting to do towards Marvel, where it's like, we're gonna do the same thing and fight you on the same ground when they've already won the competition. They went home. The trophy is currently on their mantelpiece.
Yes,
they won. Stop trying.
As a side note, you guys know all those follow-up games for PlayStation All-Stars, right? Yeah.
Right? It's it's the same thing they tried doing with Smash Brothers, where it's like, guys, they already won the trophy.
I mean, yeah. Okay. So the difference here is that, first of all, Smash Brothers didn't start off as a Nintendo stable of characters game. It started off as a decent new approach to fighting games. Mm-hmm. And then they got the okay to have the DC stable of characters, which I should talk about in games sometime.
Which, I mean, then they just put together one of the best fighting game franchises ever out of just so happened to be Nintendo characters, and then it became what it is now.
And it just so happens that Nintendo happens to own a large stable of characters that work for this. Mm-hmm. Whereas with PlayStation, they had to gather all of their third-party support together.
It's so funny to me that they had to use Raiden instead of Snake.
That
is so hilarious to me on so many different levels. And that's another zero punctuation quote where he's like, it's even perfect that they had to use the secondary sidekick because they already sold the big guy to Nintendo.
I mean, why not use Otacon for
Can we get the weird laboratory anime nerd? Can we do that? That'd be I'd play that.
You get him in the battle and he just kind of crawls into a corner and wets himself.
Shit, that's still better than Raiden.
Now, from what I understand, Raiden is much more beloved in Asian culture than
I don't doubt it, but he comes across as the hardest edgelord in human history over here. Even his lines sound like the actor was chain smoking, not for the joy of it, but for the fact that he thought it gave him a slightly grittier voice, which could be used to voice a robot fucking samurai.
So, full disclosure, and we're not going to get into it right now, but I'm just going to admit right now, I have no idea what the term edgelord means.
Oh, do you know what the term edgy means?
Yeah.
Something is edgy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the internet has turned it into a way to make fun of things that are they look edgy, man, but it's not actually edgy.
So it's like trying to be edgy to the nth degree.
An edgelord is someone who's trying way too hard at doing something that's edgy.
Okay.
So like an edgelord is like what Reaper gets made fun of from Overwatch.
So it's like all content, no substance.
Or like it's more you look and sound like what a 15-year-old's version of hard is. Which, like, let's be serious, that's what Reaper looks like.
Yeah, I still play him occasionally.
Oh no, he's a great character. It's just really funny to be like, you are my 15-year-old version self of like what hardcore used to look like.
People don't know this. This some insider info right here. If you go into the Overwatch character model, you can actually go underneath his jacket, and he is wearing a Johnny the Homicidal Maniac t-shirt that he bought from Hot Topic.
The thing is, I wouldn't put it past the game. Like, that sounds like an inside reference that like Blizzard would do as a gag.
As a side note, I also wore that shirt through most of my teenage years. I wore it to the point where it was not black anymore. It was like a light gray.
But it's like between that and what Scarecrow looks like in Injustice 2, where you're like, this is the epitome of what like every outcast 15-year-old was like, yeah, this is so awesome. And then you look back at your life and you're just like, shit, I made those decisions. Between like that and Warhammer 40K, you're just like, well, fuck, I had no idea what cool was.
All right, so we're not here to talk about edgelords, though. We're here to talk about the Hulk.
Yes,
who is not an edgelord. Well, I mean, actually, now that right after I say that, it's like, you know what? Let's talk about the ultimate anti-hero in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I mean, outside of like, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I was gonna say Wolverine would be like the epitome of what an edgelord would have looked like.
Well, the problem with Wolverine, yes.
Wolverine was like a legit anti-hero. I was thinking more like a Deathstroke. Deathstroke is an edgelord.
All right, so we're here to talk about The Incredible Hulk, the 2008 film.
Starring
Edward Norton.
And this was, I know we got into this conversation when we were talking about the MCU stuff. How far after Iron Man was this one?
2 months.
Oh, wow.
It came out 2 months after Iron Man.
I had no idea it was that close.
And in the past, I believe I mentioned that it was like critically panned. It actually wasn't. After doing some research, it was not critically panned, and it did relatively well. It did at least as well as Ang Lee's Hulk.
I mean, all right.
May I jump into numbers?
Sure. No, let's do this.
I'm going to jump into some numbers.
All right.
The Incredible Hulk came out on June 8th of 2008.
God, that was a while ago.
And that is actually 1 month after Iron Man, which came out in May 2nd.
Okay.
So 1 month. The Hulk 2003 film grossed $245 million.
Whoa.
With a budget of $137 million.
That's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm. The 2008 The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton grossed $263 million.
Okay.
With a budget of $150 million. So it cost a little bit more money to make, and it made a little bit more money.
Okay.
But not really that much more to justify the cost.
That's pretty negligible, sure.
The 2003 movie has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 61%, and the 2008 film has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 67%. But that being said, audience score. I actually wrote this down because it was notable. The audience reception for 2003 was 29%. And 2008 is 71%.
Oh, wow. That's almost Thing levels of significantly different.
So even though cost differences, gross differences, and critical reception differences are not really noticeable, audience perception of the two films is huge.
Yeah, it's pretty massive, actually.
And actually, along that note, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but Roger Ebert had two different feelings about both films. I actually sat down and read both of his reviews. He actually liked Ang Lee's Hulk more than Edward Norton's.
Here's the thing. That sounds like Ebert to me. I know he's known for being an exceptional critic, and I love his stuff. But, man, that guy never really followed a set trend over what he enjoyed. It was kind of just, did I sit down and like this thing? All right, Cool. That's what my opinion was. Like, there some other critics, you really can figure out like a wheelhouse or something. I don't think I've ever been able to fully figure out Roger Ebert's wheelhouse.
So Ang Lee's Hulk he gave 3 stars.
Okay.
And the Incredible Hulk he gave 2.5 stars to.
Not significant.
No, it's not a significant difference. But
Yeah.
I want to read to you verbatim what he wrote in his first paragraph.
Sure.
Review. The Incredible Hulk is no doubt an ideal version of the Hulk saga for those who found Ang Lee's Hulk too talky, or dare I say, too thoughtful. But not for me. It sidesteps the intriguing aspects of Hulkdom and spends way too much time in, dare I say, noisy and mindless action sequences. By the time the Incredible Hulk had completed his Hulk-on-Hulk showdown with the Incredible Blonsky, I had been using my Timex with the illuminated dial way too often.
See, here's the thing, and this is something where I'm actually, I'm mad that Roger Ebert is dead for numerous reasons, but I would have loved to, because he's been gone since what, 2014?
Something like that.
I would have really loved to see what his opinion of the really recent stuff would have been.
Oh, yeah. Just tracking him through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because at this point, you can't treat them like individual films.
No, yeah, and that would have been really fascinating to see what his thoughts were on this like new developing idea in cinema.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that was still only movie 2, and we didn't know what was coming. Man, I'd actually really like to do an episode where we just dig through his thoughts on some of this stuff. I mean, obviously that could, well, we can make that on.
I'll tell you what,
well, whatever. Anyway,
might do it.
That's just really interesting to see. And I, to a certain extent, like, especially looking at the recent Marvel stuff, I can kind of see where some of his problems are. Like, especially with the, to me, at least with the non-Guardians properties, everything kind of boils down to what if everything just became a punching match, which I like Civil War. I really do. I thought it was exceptional. The fact that it ends in a boxing match still kind of pisses me off to a certain extent.
I will disagree with you on that,
Sure.
because that fight between Tony Stark and Captain America are way more weighted than just fucking Superman beating up what's his fuck.
Oh, no, let's not get into, like, no.
That fight was dumb.
No, we can't do an episode on Man of Steel because literally it'll just be me yelling into the microphone for an hour.
Folks, this show is called Agree to Disagree. At least it either has to be something that one of us has not witnessed before, or something that we completely disagree on.
Both of us hate Man of Steel.
Yes, we are on the same page about that movie.
Both of us hate Man of Steel.
Anyway, yeah, General Zod. Sorry.
Yeah, Zod.
I can't believe I drew a blank on that for so long.
And admittedly, the Marvel properties tend to do that better. But I can see how, especially for someone like Ebert, who is very much, who I think was very much not as used to the special effects extravaganza that Disney started pumping out with the Marvel properties, I can see how that could become very distracting.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned Disney, because
they weren't owned by Disney.
When 2008's The Hulk came out, it was distributed by Universal.
Right.
And that's because Universal had previously owned the rights to the Hulk franchise for cinematic purposes.
Was this because when Marvel went through their bankruptcy, they were just selling off properties?
Yeah, and that's why the X-Men are owned by Fox and why Spider-Man's owned by Sony.
Well, they used to be. I don't goddamn know anymore.
It is the rights between Sony and Spider-Man is literally a web of legalese. I don't feel guilty about that one.
No, that was actually funny. Way to go.
Okay, so what actually happened was that in January of 2006, Marvel reacquired the rights from Universal because Universal had missed the deadline for principal photography of another Hulk movie.
Oh, right. Okay.
And because of that,
that makes sense.
Although they reacquired the rights to make a Hulk movie, Universal still owned distribution rights for anything that was considered a sequel.
By the way, side note, everybody, because this is actually really important when you understand the Marvel insanity that is their like current roster of what the hell is going on anymore with their heroes. This is the entire reason the Fantastic Four movie was created, Fan Four Stick, or whatever, the one that starred Kate Mara in a terrible wig and crap like that. The only reason that movie exists is because I believe it was Fox needed to retain the rights to a movie, told the director just make a thing, and then it was so bad that I think they may have considered selling the rights back to Marvel on principle of the fact that they may have realized they killed their own franchise.
So Fox are a bunch of dickbags, and basically they would rather churn out bad movie after bad movie,
which is like
rather than give rights back to people.
Isn't that the entire reason The Last Stand exists?
Yes.
Yeah, and like Wolverine Origins, like aren't those the only reasons those films exist?
Yes, but I will say because of their bullshit, some good movies have been made. Like First Class.
First Class was great.
Great movie.
I actually really like Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
God.
They did some great things, but that was because of good creative people wanting to jump on the property and not because Fox is a good company.
Movies. Yeah, no, fair enough. In that aspect, I can totally see that, where it's like, it's less these guys are good people and more they keep accidentally hiring good people, which, yeah, fair enough.
Like, if we're going to, we could potentially approach X-Men the same way we approached Harry Potter and do a whole episode about the ups and downs of that series.
God, a whole friggin' retrospective?
My God. I'll tell you what, if we ever do that, we will do X1, 2, and 3, and then we'll do First Class, and then cut it off there.
One of my favorite things, actually, about the fact that the X-Men aren't involved in the MCU, and this is technically tangential, is that because the X-Men are consistently the guys who ruin the goddamn world in the Marvel comics, like, consistently the people to cause the world-ending event comics.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah, are because some mutant botched something and now the entire planet is gonna die. Like, Apocalypse, only a problem because of the X-Men. The Phoenix Force, only a problem because of the X-Men. Onslaught, only a problem because of the X-Men. Cable even existing, only a problem because of the X-Men. That time that Charles Xavier got straight up vaporized by Cyclops. Yeah, that was once again the X-Men and the Phoenix Force being involved with each other. House of M, only because of the X-Men. Like, consistently the bullshit world-ending event comics are because someone on the mutant team that is the X-Men fucked up something and now the world's gonna die. Like, half of Marvel Comics has probably just been Captain America face palming, just like, why the fuck have we just not... I'm starting to agree with Senator Kelly. Why can't we just lock you people up? Shit! Stop destroying everything! Like, hey, remember that time that Charles Xavier fused his identity with Magneto and then Onslaught happened and, like, destroyed why have we not jailed them? They're essentially war criminals.
Professor Xavier's school of gifted arsonists.
I mean, essentially. I mean,
gifted radicals.
Pyro went to his school, right? Or is that just in the movie universe?
I have no idea.
All right, who cares anymore?
I will full disclaimer here. Although I enjoy Marvel Cinematic Universe more than DC, I have read way more DC than I have Marvel when it comes to physical comic books.
I've read some Marvel. I've read probably a lot more Dark Horse than anything else because Grendel's amazing.
Fair enough.
Anyway, so actually back on topic. So tell me more about the Hulk.
So the immediate response from Marvel when talking about Ang Lee's Hulk was that they were going to treat it like a parallel universe one-shot comic book.
Harsh.
Yeah, they're not going to completely ignore that it happened.
It's just essentially an Elseworlds story.
It is essentially like they don't recognize it in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay.
So
they're like allowing for its existence.
Now, the cool thing that they really decided to do was that they decided to they specifically chose not to include the origin story in the 2008 Hulk movie because they figured at this point everyone knows the Hulk's origin. We don't need to do that.
In fairness, I mean, they kind of adopted this in the new Spider-Man stuff where it's like, you all know what the hell happened. Like,
and the best way that they approached that in the Spider-Man Homecoming was there's actually a moment where Peter Parker is telling his origin story, but it's just kind of like Cliff Notes glossed over.
Yeah, like,
because it's him talking to his buddy about how he got his powers, but it's not really important because we all know he got bit by a radioactive spider. End of story.
Yeah. I mean, also, that's like, speaking back to Man of Steel, yet another problem with Man of Steel where it's like, dude, I can walk up to any human being on the street. They don't even have to know comic books, and I can say, what is the origin story of Superman? You don't need to tell it again.
When you can walk up to now given we have a skewed opinion here, we are in Redmond, Nerd County.
Yeah, fair enough. The east side of the Puget
Western
Sound.
Washington in general. I could walk up to probably 80% of the people in this area and just be like, hey, what planet is Superman from? And they'll be like, Krypton, or they'll be like, don't talk to me.
I would actually bet good money that I could walk into most American cities and ask the exact origin story of Superman and get something that is vaguely accurate.
Probably especially Kansas.
I mean, fair enough. But like, yeah, last son of Krypton, planet died, shot him off in a spaceship, landed in Kansas, then he learned about his powers. Fuck. There you go. No one needs to ever tell that story again, DC.
Yeah. Also, that way you also don't have to keep telling us that there's a town called Smallville.
Exactly. And that actually kind of, like, the Hulk, I would say there probably is more of an argument to be able to hear it again, but I also think we underestimate, like, how popular that the 60s and 70s show was in just being able to tell people, like, yes, gamma radiation, mess it up. He now occasionally changes into a giant rage monster.
And the only important thing we need to know in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that they decide to tie it into the same experiments that were done to make Captain America.
Which that was actually a thing in the first place in the comics.
Was it?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Bruce Banner's gamma radiation was originally doing test runs during the Cold War on how to develop a soldier that would be able to rival, I believe, the Russians.
Okay.
So I think that sounds accurate. Maybe I could just be, I don't know.
If you have any problems with Andrew's
email John at gggames.org.
No, fuck it. I'm going to make a new email account.
specifically for my email complaints.
Email it to Andrew at gggames.org, and he will not be able to respond because he's not going to have access to it anyway, and I probably won't check it.
And I doubt that email account will actually exist.
I'll make it.
Fair enough. Keep emailing John. All right. Well, fair enough. That's, I suppose, a good reason.
So, let me think for a second. Okay, just to distill the plot of this movie, because I forget. Have you seen this movie?
I have not, actually. Yeah. That's actually why we wanted to do this episode as our MCU episode, because when we were discussing this back when we were doing the MCU episode, I realized that I'd never seen the Hulk.
So, just to distill the premise of the film, because I don't want to get too much into the plot.
Yeah.
Essentially, Banner is already the Hulk at the beginning of the film. And he is currently living in seclusion in Rio de Janeiro.
Right, okay.
He is trying to learn to control his rage.
I was going to say.
And living in seclusion and not trying to make many connections with people.
Do you mind if I try and piece this together? Because I think I might know enough about this.
Let's pull a Ben sees a Star Wars and Andrew, tell me what you think the plot to this movie is.
Okay, so I do kind of remember some of this. I still haven't seen it, but I do remember hearing about it where it's like he's already the Hulk, he's living in Rio, he's living in seclusion, trying to tame it, and then somebody else either starts on his experiments or reboots them, and they need his help for the data and go and try and find him, and he gets pulled back into new versions of military experiments using his stuff, which he then leaves from, but that accidentally creates Abomination, which is the main general who is involved in the experiments, who then changes into that thing, and then Bruce realizes that he needs to take care of this new version, and then he's got to tame the anger, and it becomes him versus A-Bomb. And it ends with him winning, but also realizing that he hasn't done as much work towards actually taming the beast than he did, and that he at any point could become as crazy as the guy who ended up becoming Abomination, and he leaves to attempt to go to seclusion again.
And also Liv Tyler's there.
Oh, yeah, also that. And also Robert Downey Jr. shows up in there.
You're not 100% correct, but the story that you just did a summary of, man, I would love to watch that movie.
Oh, well, all right then. Okay, that seemed decent.
No, there are actually a lot of points that you hit on that are very accurate.
Oh, well, okay.
And there are also some things that's man, that actually would have been a much better way to do it.
Well,
that being said, I haven't watched the movie in a while. I have it available to watch.
Okay, fair enough.
And we're going to watch it at some point before this next episode, obviously.
Right.
And there is one last little factoid I wanted to throw out that I thought was kind of interesting.
Sure.
Which is that Edward Norton got hired onto the project in 2006, April 2006.
Yep.
And the contract negotiations required him to write. He wanted to have a writer's credit for the movie.
Right, I heard about this.
It required him to write a screenplay draft within 1 month of him being hired.
Holy shit.
And he fulfilled it.
Oh my god. Well, then again, I suppose if you have all the time in the world because you're so rich that you don't really have to care.
Now, that being said,
I suppose, but I can't pump out work at that level.
That being said, he continued to edit the screenplay throughout production.
So it's his screenplay then?
There is arguments about this because the general themes of the movie were not written by him. His screenplay basically adapts the screenplay that they already had, and he changes a lot of the dialogue. But then there's a lot of arguments about what is the story of a movie. Is it the dialogue or is it the actual?
Okay.
Yeah.
We get into the complex meta juggling of like what the hell is a story.
So essentially, Edward Norton had a lot of input about how the character was supposed to be played and about the things that were happening and what should occur.
Huh.
But the actual overarching story, he didn't write that.
Okay.
So
so that actually is really interesting. Is that part of the reason why Norton didn't come back for the Avengers?
I'd have to say probably. Whether it was him being mad or Marvel being like, you know what, we don't need him.
Yeah, like we don't want to work with this guy again because he's got to try and rewrite our movie.
It could also be something just as simple as contract negotiations and time available. Because from what I've heard, those Marvel contracts, when you sign up to be a superhero in the MCU, you are immediately always available to be in a movie or a cameo in a movie for the next period of time.
I mean, Chris Evans talks about that
Chris Evans, thank you. Thank God you just said his name.
Yeah, no, he talks about that a lot, where he's like that is part of the huge reason why he's feeling kind of burned out after being Captain America for so long. Is he just has no ability to do other work. And if he wants to do other work, he has to do it in a very fast period of time. So actually, he's been in like an occasional indie movie here and there. But he's just like, I can only imagine how burned out you must have to feel after doing
typical millennial complaint.
You know what? Fair enough. But I mean, like that, yeah.
I don't want to have to work 2 jobs.
But also, I mean, this goes into a little bit about Infinity Wars, and part of me really wants to do an entire movie just on the insane speculation of a rambling madman. But that's part of the reason why I'm convinced that both Downey Jr. and Evans are going to die in Infinity War, is because not only does it up the stakes like nobody's business, it also allows them the ability to kind of, do other things, because Downey Jr.'s talked about how he doesn't want to be in these films anymore. And I can imagine that's part of the reason why Norton was like, you know what, I'm okay, hand it to someone else. That I don't think he probably fought it as hard as people think. I mean, I wonder how much of the character's definition was established by him and then played on by Ruffalo, because it's really interesting now to think that so much of the Hulk as a character may have been defined by a guy who was only there for one movie and admittedly wrote a script, but then it was just kind of handed to Mark Ruffalo. That's actually really fascinating now. Huh. Also, it is interesting to note that I think the Hulk is one of the major characters of the Avengers to have only one movie on him.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
One official movie.
Well, yeah. But it is interesting to think about where it's like everybody else, like Cap has had 3 movies, Iron Man has had 3 movies, like
yeah. And not to mention they just kind of throw Iron Man in other movies.
Yeah.
And they do that with the Hulk. Like he has had one movie.
Yep, but he's been in both Avengers.
He's been in both Avengers films. He's also showing up in Thor Ragnarok.
Yep. But that it's really interesting where it's like, I mean, they did that with Black Widow, they did that with Hawkeye.
When are we getting a Black Widow film?
I mean, I'd watch it, but I'd also...
When are we getting that?
I also want a movie about a S.H.I.E.L.D. that doesn't suck. Like, don't get me wrong, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was interesting, but it felt like, oh god, I wanted the gritty, like... And I know that's unreasonable, but like, man, I wanted that gritty, like 1970s Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. bullshit.
Yeah, you didn't want the 21st century's answer to what if we did like a Monster of the Week X-Files ripoff.
I was thinking Monster of the Week X-Files ripoff by way of high-tech Hogwarts.
As a side note, did you know that when
kind of want to die
when Marvel first reacquired the rights to the Hulk from Universal, their first choice was David Duchovny to play Bruce Banner.
Holy crap, I'd watch that. That'd be amazing. He would do really well.
He was their first choice.
He and Edward Norton both do like understated psychosis.
Oh yeah.
Exceptionally. Like, yeah.
What are you talking about?
Oh god, I love the X-Files. Who doesn't love the X-Files? Show's great.
I'm still dealing with issues because my sister was abducted by aliens when I was 13 years old. And
I mean, in fairness to him, yeah, you would.
Scully, did you see that? No, Mulder, I didn't. And that is literally the first 2 seasons of X-Files.
Yeah, I've heard if you watch the mythology-specific episodes, it gets a lot more entertaining rather than doing the Monster of the Week stuff, but I get in vehement disagreements with people about that. So anyway, so it actually, this version of the Hulk actually sounds kind of interesting. So, I mean, obviously we can't go into, like, full what the hell's going on because we haven't seen it. And I will say this, though, after hearing some of this stuff and just some of my own background, I am a lot more interested to sit down and watch this than I originally was when you were making the MCU episode. It just sounded like a kind of one-off that we just don't talk about anymore. But it sounds like Norton may have written or like defined way more of the Hulk than we give him credit for, which could be really fascinating to watch, especially now going into Ragnarok, to look back and think of just how much of the Hulk has been defined by this guy who was there for one movie.
Well, now, that in mind, as we're wrapping up the episode now, I would like to make a proposal to you.
All right.
What if we watch the Hulk, and then we do the episode for that, and then after that, just for shits and giggles, we do Hulk, the Ang Lee.
No, what, the Ang Lee version?
After that.
It's not going
to be a 2-parter.
I'm not against that. It'd be like a one-shot.
Yeah, we'll do it as just a quick one-shot, just for shits and giggles.
That sounds fun. Why not?
Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. All right.
Anyway.
Everybody, we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.